Hi guys, and welcome to this Pleiadian contact course. I'm Ray, and my partner Anita is also going to be doing this course with me. The reason why we are doing this course is because we feel it is very important to prepare people for the coming changes that are going to be occurring within the next few years regarding open contact with extraterrestrial races. Now, many channelings and channelers have said that the first race that are going to come down and greet humanity, in more of a public manner, because many of us are being individually contacted anyway, those who are ready. But many of these channelers have said that it's going to be the Pleiadians who come down first. And this is because we have so many similarities to them, not only in the way we look, obviously, our genetics are very similar to them, with some minor alterations, of course, but also some aspects of our culture are very similar as well, our social, nature and things like that as well. So that's why it's going to be those who come down first, because they're not so alien to us. It won't freak people out so much if they see that it's just basically other people coming down from another star system. So this course is really going to prepare you for the coming changes, okay? It's going to teach you different methods of communication with extraterrestrial beings, but most importantly, it's going to teach you how to raise your own vibration and to discover that level of inner peace within you that is independent of external circumstances. Because in order for you to truly be able to embrace these civilizations without fear, obviously you must be at peace within yourself. We must eliminate all of the barriers within you that prevent peace and clarity and joy from manifesting within you. So the first week of the course then is we're going to be focusing solely upon different levels of peace, okay? So days 1 and 2 of this course, we're going to be focusing upon inner peace. So the main topics of achieving inner peace are listening to the conscience, which I'm going to be teaching you about in a moment, but also practicing self-love on a really practical level. And then you're going to also receive a meditation, which can help you really ground this information that we've shared with you over the first 2 days of this course. Then we're going to focus on world peace, and we're going to help you see all of the different barriers in society that prevent world peace from happening. Because in order for us to truly become an interstellar civilization and a member of these galactic communities, we have to stop killing one another. We have to embrace one another and appreciate the differences that exist between all of us, people from different cultures, different religions, different countries, different nationalities, skin tones. All that, it's a beautiful thing. Variety is the spice of life, and this is something we're going to be emphasizing as well. And then we're going to focus on universal peace as well. And a lot of the things that we show you during the world peace segment of the video can also be practiced on a universal level as well, as above, so below. Because really, the world itself is kind of like a mini universe, because there's so many differences between us on a physical level. But of course, that one cosmic commonality exists within all of us, within all manifested beings, and that is our consciousness. So we're going to bring it around full circle and to help you see that, you are ultimately one with all beings, and it's only fear and limiting belief systems ultimately that prevent you from really seeing that. Okay, guys, so the first day of this course, we're going to be focusing upon the conscience, because in order for one to truly be living in a peaceful state, they have to listen to that subtle inner voice within them, okay? The conscience really is the higher self speaking to us. It's that intuitive guidance that comes to us when we're living in a really peaceful state. However, our conscience can be distorted and sometimes taken over by the programming within our minds as well. Okay. So there are different levels of the inner voice that we're going to be discussing now. All right. So Yogananda once said that thoughts are not individually created, rather, they are universally rooted. What does that mean? It means that every single thought that passes through your mind, you're not thinking it per se, you're not creating it in your mind, you're attracting it. Okay, so depending upon your vibration in the present moment, depending upon your emotional state, will determine the quality of thoughts that you attract. Okay, so this is why it's really difficult to listen to the conscience or to really know what your intuition is telling you from a fear-based state, because all of the thoughts that you're going to attract in a fear-based state are going to reflect the fear that is in your emotional body. So if you're stressed, if you're sad, you're going to automatically attract thoughts that, generate more sadness, more stress for you. If you're living in fear or anxiety, you're going to, automatically attract thoughts that reinforce that as well. But if you're actually at peace in the present moment, that's when you can truly tap in to that intuitive guidance of your conscience. Okay? Because, your the information and the guidance being sent from your spirit guides, from your higher self, and so on, can be distorted by negative emotion. It's almost like, when someone throws a pebble into a very still lake, they can no longer see their reflection in the water clearly because the waters are being ruffled or disturbed by the pebble you threw in. And the lake is like the mind. So once the mind is still, then you're able to perceive yourself, you're able to perceive reality, and you're able to perceive the guidance being sent to you from your higher self without any distortion. So really developing calmness within you, really like consciously prioritizing calmness and inner peace is also super important. Calmness begets tranquility, and tranquility begets clarity. Yeah. And if you have clarity, then obviously you're not operating from your programming anymore. You're operating from who you truly are in the here and now. All of those survival centers have calmed down. Anita's going to discuss, more about the survival brain tomorrow, which is really exciting. I can't wait for her to share that with you. It's really like life-changing stuff for sure. But really learning how to develop stillness and even adopting a meditative practice, even if it's only for 10, 15 minutes every day, can really work wonders in your life because it can help you see the difference in your perception when you're operating from a fear-based state and when you're operating from an aligned state of consciousness. So this is what I want to talk to you about today, because the higher self, is basically you in the spirit realm. It's you beyond the physical space-time veils that really eclipse and hijack our perception from the moment we come out of the womb, basically. Because the higher self is beyond time, essentially, the physical manifestation of time. There is still time on the higher self level, but it's more slippery, it's more malleable, it's quicker. The laws of space and time don't really work in the same way that they do here. There's a lot more limitation on this plane than there is on the level of the higher self, okay? Your spirit self. So your spirit self then knows the outcome of all the potential choices you could make in this life. And this is why when your intuition is perceived clearly without any distortion, it can guide you to the right choices in your life. And if you're making the right choices that are aligned with your higher self, then you're doing the right thing. You're living from a state of true integrity. And if you're living in a state of true integrity and joy, then obviously you're going to be more at peace with yourself. You're going to be more at peace with the situations that you're experiencing. Of course, you're going to oscillate from your programming to, the state of your natural self. That is what the awakening process is all about. It's the constant oscillation between being present and, your programming, which is usually reflective of your past traumas. Okay, well, one of the first steps to really manifesting true inner peace in your life is to just recognize when you're operating from your programming and when you're not. Okay, because this can do you wonders. And once you know the difference, then you're able to discern, when you should make big life choices or not. Okay. So listening to the conscience, listening to the inner voice is so essential. Okay. The conscience is a really still, peaceful inner voice. It's not the loud thoughts in the head, again, which are reflective of your programming. It's a very subtle voice, okay? And it knows the right thing to do, okay? You've just got to listen to it and allow it to guide you, through the myriad of choices that come your way in physical reality. When you're living from a peaceful state, when you're living, in a state of alignment with who you truly are, you're also operating on a higher frequency. And when you're operating from a higher frequency as well, you are then more likely also to experience contact with extraterrestrial beings, including the Pleiadians. They won't contact people who are constantly living in a fear-based state simply because they don't want to traumatize them. They know who is ready for this and who is not. But the good news is that this course is designed to help you become ready and to understand, beyond all Hollywood bullshit and everything, that there really is nothing to fear. We have cosmic family and cosmic heritage among the stars, and they're super excited to contact us as well. There are so many benefits to just creating inner peace within you as well. Peace has the potential to heal you on a genetic level as well, because the moment you change or adjust your perception to eliminate all of the fear-based limiting beliefs and barriers within you that, are creating these disturbances within your mind and your emotional states, then you're going to actually change the way your genes express themselves. You're going to change your gene expression, which on a cellular and a biological level as well is going to do wonders for you. Stress ultimately breaks down a physical body. Living in a stressful state, living in fear, operating from fear, over time breaks the body down. Stress creates disease. This has even been proved scientifically as well by, scientists such as Dr. Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza as well. But conversely, the opposite is also true. Joy and true peace and alignment and living in harmony with yourself and the universe, heals. So if you're operating from a higher frequency and you're living in a peaceful state and you've got gratitude beaming out your heart, it can actually create a lot of healing within you on a physical, mental, and emotional level. And because these beings, such as the Pleiadians, again, operate on such a higher frequency, once you come into contact with them as well, their energy can simply do that to you too. There are so many benefits to just, listening to your conscience and being at peace within yourself. And, I'm going to make this step the very first step for all of my courses, to be honest, because, you need a solid foundation to your spirituality, and if you haven't got a peaceful, and grounded understanding of metaphysics, spirituality, and simply how your mind and body work, then you could potentially harm yourself with some of these concepts. So having that kind of foundation and that grounded kind of understanding is essential. Okay, so today what I want you to do is just to really go within, try and go beyond your programming, try and recognize which thoughts are reflective of your programming, even write them down on a piece of paper. And once you write those negative thoughts down on a piece of paper, next to them just put not useful, or just put program thoughts, right? Anita's going to take you through some practical steps tomorrow as well, which can help you to really discard, some of these negative thoughts as well. But this is a good one too, just to write them down on a piece of paper, these thoughts, and, just will just help you realize that, you know, they're not really you. It's just the way you've been programmed as a result of your traumatic experiences. Okay, so recognizing which thought patterns within you are just reflective of your fear-based programming, and which thoughts are actually reflective of your conscience, your inner self speaking to you, can also do wonders for you. Okay, so just practice that tonight. Practice just, you know, sitting with yourself, observing your thoughts, observing your mind, observing the correlation between your emotional state and your mental state as well, because that's really important, of course, because you're going to see which thoughts you're attracting as a result of your state as well. Okay. We will see you tomorrow in day 2 of this course. Peace be with you.
Hi guys, and welcome to day 2 of this course. Today we're going to be focusing on self-love and acceptance. Now, we're going to start off by talking about how the brain works in relation to these things. And first off, we're going to focus on 2 separate parts of the brain, which are the intellectual mind and the original primitive part, which is called the amygdala. Now, our thoughts govern our perception, and how we think about ourselves and the events of our lives will determine how we feel about them. Now, when we are operating from the intellectual mind, we tend to get things right in life. It will always come up with the answers based on a proper assessment of the situation, and it's generally very positive. And this is actually the part of our brain that we do not share with other animals. Now, the other part of the brain, the original primitive part, is called the amygdala. The amygdala is generally referred to as the fight, flight, and depression area of the brain. And it is actually associated with 2 other very primitive parts: the hippocampus, which holds all of our primitive and sometimes inappropriate behavioral patterns and experiences, and the hypothalamus, which regulates the chemical responses to the body and mind. When we are under the influence of negative beliefs, we're in survival mode. And when we are in that state, we lose intellectual control. We stop operating from the intellectual part of the brain, and we start operating from the primitive part of the brain, or the amygdala. And this part of the brain always operates within the primitive parameters of depression, anxiety, or anger, or a combination of all 3. But it's there to serve a purpose. It's there to protect us. So its job is really to always see things from the worst possible perspective. So that if you would run into a lion after finishing this course today, your brain wouldn't say, oh, it's probably eaten today. No, it's going to tell you that it's coming for you and you need to run. And this response of the brain is obviously very good when we're actually in dangerous situations, but it's not so good when we're just living our day-to-day lives. And because the primitive brain is not an intellect, it can't be innovative. So it will always try to refer you back to previous patterns of behavior, because if what you did yesterday ensured your survival, it's going to encourage you to do the same thing again. But one thing that is important to remember is that the brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality. And this is why every negative thought that you believe is converted into anxiety. So let's just say that you have a job interview tomorrow. Intellectually, you know that the job interview is going to go fine. They usually do. But if you hold a negative belief about yourself or your performance, you're probably going to start thinking about what could go wrong. Now, let's say that you think about it 50 times. So the next day you have the interview and it goes fine, but you have actually attended 51 interviews and 50 of them were disasters. But we can also negatively introspect about the past. Whenever you revisit a painful experience or memory in your mind, you are reliving that moment. You are reliving that experience. Now, let's talk a little bit about serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps us feel calm and relaxed. It makes us feel brave, nice, happy. It actually also helps us cope with physical fear and physical pain. Now, if we want to create a constant flow of serotonin in our body, there are only 3 simple things that we need to do. We need to act in a positive way, we need to think in a positive way, and we need to interact with others in a positive way. If we do these three things, that's all you need to do. These things will create a constant flow of serotonin in your brain. But what stops the flow of serotonin? When we feel depressed, sad, miserable, we feel down, we actually don't produce any chemicals at all. And when we're stressed and anxious, we actually produce an overload of stress hormones and adrenalines. And that's obviously great if you run into a lion or a polar bear, for example. But as we spoke of earlier, it's not so good when we're just living our day-to-day lives. If we think, act, and interact in a positive way, we will create that constant flow of serotonin. And now we are going to talk a little bit about the inner critic. Now, we all have an inner critic in our heads. That voice in our heads that often reflects our past traumas and programming. One major aspect about practicing self-love is learning how to observe this inner critic without believing in its lies. We can then redirect our thoughts to positivity and alignment. One useful practice when we're having negative thoughts about ourselves or the events in our lives is to imagine ourselves grabbing that thought out of our minds and throwing it into the trash. Because all negative or limiting thoughts that we might have about ourselves are simply not true. They are lies. And this helps us to categorize our thoughts. And the next time they arise, we are likely to believe in them to a lesser degree. To be truly at peace, we must learn how to detach our sense of self from the limiting and false ideas in our mind. We can then fill our minds with thoughts of truth and integrity. This is what is known as metacognition in neuroscience, which enhances one's self-awareness. The same applies when we revisit a painful experience or a memory in our mind, then we are reliving that experience. Because as we talked about before, the brain cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. A simple yet very powerful practice is to see our traumatic memories from a different perspective. And instead of us adopting an unconscious victim mentality, we could instead ask ourselves, what was life trying to teach me in that moment? What is the lesson that I can take from this experience? If we do that, we can then learn new things from old experiences. And now we are going to talk about self-awareness a little bit. When we adopt all of these useful practices, we naturally enhance our self-awareness, which can then have a beneficial effect on every area of our life. Once we are more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behavior, we become better equipped to make good decisions for ourselves, which then will also affect the lives of others, especially our loved ones. We become more emotionally intelligent, seeing through the emotions generated by fear, either by ourselves or other people around us. We also won't take negativity aimed at us by others personally, because we see things from a higher perspective. And instead of adding it to the negativity, we will diffuse the situation instead. And by our example, we will potentially inspire others to respond to negative triggers and situations in a similar way. The first step to transformation is to know thyself, and this can only be done through self-awareness. Releasing the conditioned aspects of your personality will ultimately enhance the peace innate to your core being. And peace is the key to perceiving with clarity and living in alignment with the flow of creation.
Okay, guys, so this part of the video is called World Peace, okay? Because in order for us to truly be, inducted into the Galactic Federations as a fully fledged member, we're going to first of all need to stop killing each other. We're going to first of all need to achieve true world peace, and create a world where we can all live in harmony while appreciating the differences that we have. There are so many surface level differences that separate or segregate our society. Religion, people's skin tone, their race or ethnic group, sexuality, gender nowadays as well. There are so many veils, that really create all of these illusions of separation. And the reason why I said illusion is because fundamentally we are all one at our core. Fundamentally, we are all the same consciousness. We are all the same being, having a multitude of experiences from different perspectives. Okay. And we are the same being as all of the other extraterrestrial beings as well that exist in the totality of creation, because nothing exists outside of consciousness. Okay. So the illusion that we experience in physical reality is the illusion of separation, which is also interlinked with the illusion of space and time. Okay, because the space-time illusion is really what creates all of the veils of separation from one another and from the source as well. There are so many space-time veils, that make us believe that we're linear beings living a linear kind of experience. But fundamentally, all things exist in the eternal now. The past doesn't really exist. The future doesn't really exist. Everything you experience occurs in the here and now. The space-time veil has so many side effects upon our consciousness. It makes us believe we're separate from one another. It makes us believe we're separate from God. It makes us believe that the past has to define us. It makes us believe that the future is set in stone. It creates so many kind of complexities within our minds. But once you truly understand that time is an illusion, then you can use the illusion of space and time to actually manifest what you want as well. Because even though time is an illusion, it is still a necessary one in order to have a physical reality experience. In our soul state, we're already perfected beings. In our soul state, we're already enlightened, we're already one with the divine. But experiencing the space-time matrix, so to speak, enables us to experience a process of integration, a process of letting go, and a process of leveling up, so to speak. And it's really these space-time veils as well, ultimately, that are at the core of so many of the ways in which humanity divides itself as well. Because the space-time veils make us believe that, just because my skin color is a different color than, somebody else's, that we're different on some level, but we're not. We're all one being, again, having the same experience. The space-time veils are also present in religions. They make us believe that God is a wrathful God, or, that God is something that is separate from us. But ultimately, the divine is us. The divine is having this experience through us. So these space-time veils are present in religion. They're present in everything that really divides us as a civilization. And slowly but surely, these space-time veils are being peeled from the collective perception. It has to happen slowly, though, because if it didn't, a lot of people would be driven a bit crazy, a bit bonkers, because we're so used to living in that construct of time. And once that rug is swept from underneath our feet, what do we have to fall back upon? Again, it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, though. Once you put time in its rightful place, then you can use it to your benefit. Time is something that can be manipulated. And this is how these extraterrestrial beings also reach our world from vast distances across space and time. They manipulate time in order to get here. They jump over time. They travel through time. That's how they get to us. Now, the best way to really transcend time is to learn how to live in the here and now without any resistance, okay? Once you live in the here and now without any resistance, you're completely at peace and in the moment. In a sense, you lose track of time and you go beyond the effects of your past experiences too. Thus, the past no longer defines you when you're truly anchored in the here and now without resistance. So learning how to really be in the now learn how to accept the present moment as it is, and really learn how to focus your senses in a way in which where they can anchor you in the here and now as well, is essential really to doing your part in creating world peace. Because, one candle can light 1,000 others. Every time somebody truly awakens on this planet, it raises the frequency of the planet a little. And the more and more people begin to truly live in the present moment, the more access they'll have also to the wisdom of cosmic intelligence, which, only exists in the here and now also. So a fundamental step for everyone, and also for the collective, to achieve world peace is to get enough human beings anchored in the present moment without resistance. Where there is no resistance, there is no fear. And where there is no fear, there is no more separation. It's kind of funny when spiritual teachers say, be here now, because that's the only place you can be anyway. You're always here and now, but your minds are often somewhere else. They're either in the past or anxious about the future. Anxiety is created when we focus on a future event that we do not prefer to happen, but in order to prepare ourselves for the possibility of that event manifesting, we imagine it, we envision it. And because our minds are creative, we end up sometimes even shifting ourselves to the reality we don't prefer as a result of focusing on a future outcome that we do not prefer. The past, haunts us in our memories, it haunts us in our dreams sometimes as well, in our unintegrated emotional complexities too. It's really important to deal with your baggage when it comes up in the here and now, because when you live in the here and now without resistance at first, if there is a lot of baggage and trauma in your mind, in your subconscious, then, it's going to be made apparent to you through your programming, through the triggers that manifest in your experience. But again, living in the here and now without any resistance also means to really embrace your fears, embrace your pain, listen to what your body is telling you, listen to what your emotions are saying, listen to everything that the present moment is giving you, because everything that exists in the here and now exists there for a very important reason. And if you get into the habit of using the contents of the here and now in a productive way, then your spiritual evolution will accelerate tenfold. And the more and more of that baggage you release, the more and more of that baggage you integrate, then of course you'll be able to live in the present moment more without those resistance patterns pulling you back out of it, whether they're tied to the past or the future. And of course, then you'll also raise your own frequency, and you'll have more access to the wisdom of cosmic intelligence. And you'll also be able then to actually have more contact experiences as well with the beings such as the Pleiadians or the Syrians or whatever. And, because they know who is ready for contact. They can see in your emotional body, they can see your level of vibration, they know everything basically about each and every one of us. This is why they've only contacted a certain amount of people at this time, because most others simply aren't ready for them. Vibrationally speaking, if they just appear to some of the people living today on the earth, it would freak them out. It would potentially traumatize them. So, if you want to have contact with these beings in the near future, and you want to be a galactic ambassador for the earth in a peaceful and loving fashion, then you must integrate your shadow more. You must raise your frequency. And the best way to do that is just to deal with whatever the present moment contains. And the more you do that, then the more you can transcend time itself in the here and now. Because timelessness only exists here and now. So, segregation is Maya. Maya is a Sanskrit word meaning illusion, okay? A lot of the Hindus and the yogis are familiar with that concept. Maya is the illusion of that space and time inflicts upon our consciousness. But ultimately, all of the differences that we have amongst each other, as I've mentioned before, whether it's our race, our sexuality, our gender, our religion, our ethnic background, our nationality, all of these differences on a surface level can be appreciated, because variety is the spice of life. If we were all just the same, it would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? But while we can appreciate each other's differences, we can also attune to that one commonality that we all have with not just each other on the earth, but all beings throughout the universe. And that is our cosmic commonality. Our cosmic commonality is our consciousness. We are all one being at our core. And the more we can attune to that and live from that level of consciousness, then the more we can appreciate surface level differences while, also not losing our connection to the source in the process. By staying in tune with that timeless nature, with that timeless essence that exists within us, we will then honor all beings that come our way, whether they're plants, whether they're animals, whether they're insects, whether they're, extraterrestrials, human beings, whatever, because we'll see them all as a reflection of us, because the entire universe is folded within us as it is holographic in nature. So as I just said, it would be completely boring if we were all the same, we all looked the same, we all thought the same, we all, had the same past experiences. The fact that we all have our own individual perspective in life and that the universe sees, itself in a completely different way through each and every one of us is a beautiful thing. A lot of people believe that religion divides our society. In a sense, it does, but what divides our society even more so is the cognitive dissonance that is created as a result of so many of the religious systems having conflicting belief systems. So people are taught to believe or programmed to believe that, if one set of beliefs are correct, then all others that oppose them must be incorrect. But this is a limiting belief in of itself that must be transcended as well. Because really, all truths are true. All rivers lead to the same ocean. So we can appreciate our differences. We can appreciate the different methods in connecting to the source, whether they're religious or spiritual, and we can live in harmony together, because ultimately there is only one cosmic intelligence. There is only one source. There is only one God, and we are all extensions of that same consciousness. So learning how to really live in a connected way to each and every other human being and beyond is key also for achieving world peace. We all have to learn how to live from our heart center more, because it is through the heart that we actually connect to other people. It is through love that we connect. It is through empathy. It is through compassion that we connect to other beings, and if we can live more from our heart center, and also listen to the intelligence and the wisdom guiding us from our heart, then of course, we're only going to be inspired to want to help each other, to want to serve each other, to want to be nice to each other. And really, that's all it takes. A lot of Christians are waiting for Jesus to come and save the world. But ultimately, it is love that will save the world. And God is love. That universal, unconditional love of the source. That is what will save humanity from destroying itself. We need more people living from their heart center, because the more people who are radiating this divine love out into creation, then again, the more the collective frequency of our planet will ascend as well. Mother Earth herself is a living being. She is a living being, and each and every human being is like a blood cell within her body. Some cells are cancerous, some cells are, doing good work. Don't be one of the toxic cells. Don't add to the negativity that is already on the planet. Be a white blood cell, get rid of that disease by actually, transcending all of the hate present in our society by living more from your heart center. When the earth knows that the collective is under stress, she fights back. She fights back in the form of natural disasters and hurricanes and volcanoes and all that kind of stuff. And the collective right now is a pretty crazy place. You know, there's war, there's famine, there's all sorts of crazy stuff kicking off. But there's still a lot of people waking up as well at the same time. So, you know, things seem to be getting better and worse simultaneously. And this is because the collective awareness itself has become more aware. Okay, because when you initially become aware of any pattern within you, that awareness amplifies that pattern a little. And the same goes collectively as well. When the collective becomes more aware of something, it becomes, you know, more apparent at first before it can be fully integrated. And we're seeing a lot of that at the moment. We're living in an age of extremities for sure. But there's no better time to be upon the earth. If you can have the right perspective and not seeing everything in a doomy and gloomy fashion, then yeah, things, you know, will turn out for the better. Ultimately, it is unconditional love that will save the planet. And the more of us who can live in this state and, you know, not necessarily just love our neighbor or love your spouse or love the people who you know in your life, but just to be love itself, be love, be an embodiment of that divine love. That is the goal right there. The more of us who can be in that state, then the quicker we are going to evolve to world peace, which then will enable these civilizations to come down in a peaceful fashion and to initiate us into the Interstellar Alliance and the Galactic Federations. What does it mean to be human? Okay. Teachers like Bashar have said that we're not truly human yet because a lot of us haven't really maximized our potential. There is still so much potential within the human body. And, you know, there are so many things that we're capable of that we're simply not embodying yet for a host of different reasons. You know, the space-time veils are one of those reasons, but also the food we consume, the state that the planet is in, you know, it is very polluted. There's a lot of toxins in our bodies that prevent that as well. So just purifying ourselves on all levels, physically, mentally, and emotionally, can really help us to maximize our potential and truly to become human. The word hue is a vibration of the divine itself, and we are living embodiments of that vibration. We are living embodiments of that frequency, of the hue frequency itself. And the more of us who can really just embody that frequency and become, you know, more conscious of our connection to the collective and the entire totality of creation, then the more, you know, we'll be able to just sink into that flow, where we're all just one universe, we're all just one song, and each of us are a different note of that melody. Because ultimately the universe is created from sound, from vibration, from frequency, you know, and the more of us who are aligned with our own personal frequency, then the more in tune we're going to be with the will of the divine as well. Like some examples of human beings in our past who have realized their humanness would be, you know, the ascended masters such as Jesus and Krishna and Buddha and, you know, the likes of Yogananda and Babaji. You know, all of these beings realized that they're simply a wave of the cosmic sea. They know that we are all just as much as a wave as they are, but the only difference is they know it, we don't. You know, so really understanding that, not on the level of your intellect, but actually diving into the state of pure consciousness, diving into stillness every now and then, can really help us to realize our interconnectedness with the totality of creation. And that's what being human is all about. It's about living with a foot in each world, not going to extremities, you know, becoming too spiritual or too materialistic, but just thriving on all levels, thriving on a material level, whatever material desires you have, go after them, as long as you're not harming, you know, anybody else or yourself in the process. And of course, whatever spiritual desires you have as well, living a balanced life is key to thriving and really maximizing your potential as a human being. Okay, because the more people who can do that, the more of a clear channel they will also be for the wisdom of the divine. You know, we're only ever channeling two things in life, either our ego or the source. Okay. When we're living in a fear-based state, when we're living misaligned, we channel the fear-based programming built into the ego structure. But when we are aligned with our true self, and most people oscillate from alignment to misalignment, it's a natural thing to do so. And they become more of a clear channel for the wisdom of the divine. But the more that we can clear ourselves out of that karmic rubble, that residue, that programming, then the more the information that is sent to us from the source can channel through us without distortion. Because if there are filters in your brain, limiting belief systems, then that information is going to be filtered through your brain in a fear-based way. Bashar has touched on this many times, actually. He says, for example, when Moses received the Ten Commandments of the beings that gave him them, they were like high angelic beings or whatever. He had many fear-based religious beliefs in his brain at the time, which made him misinterpret a lot of those commandments. And as a result, we've got these 10 commandments, which, they still apply, but, the interpretation of them is a bit incorrect as a result of, the fear-based distortion filtered through his particular brain. So that's why it's really important to clear yourself out of any programming in order to achieve peace within, and then you can achieve peace without as well. And of course, once we achieve world peace, there's a lot of transferable skills that we can then apply onto the universe itself. Because the earth is like a mini universe, even just on the earth, how many different languages and cultures exist, how many religions exist, it's crazy how much diversity exists on one small little planet. But, regardless of the physical features of some extraterrestrials and the language and their ways of going about things, I know some will be very alien to us. We could still hold true to that cosmic commonality that we have with them, that we are the same consciousness and that we are an extension of one another, and we can still meet each other in a state of acceptance and love while appreciating each other's differences. Now, according to many sources, the first arrivals that are going to come to the planet when they come publicly, because they're already here, of course, they've contacted many beings, such as myself and Anita, of course, will be the Pleiadians. And the reason for this is because they are our genetic cousins. They resemble us so much on a physical level that you wouldn't even be able to tell if they walk past you in the street. That's how much they resemble us physically. And we'd all just feel more comfortable, I think, when the first race that actually comes down officially looked like us. It's just to ease us in a little. So it will be the Pleiadians who come down first. We have so many similarities with the Pleiadians as well. Pleiadian beings are very creative beings. They love music, for example. A lot of Pleiadian starseeds are great musicians, believe it or not. Pleiadians are also very sexually expressive. This doesn't mean they just sleep around with anyone, of course. They hold sex, in a sacred manner that we do, but they're still very sexual beings, and they also know how to channel their sexual energies into other endeavors as well, not just on a physical level, but a mental and emotional level as well. Pleiadian beings are also, they have a sense of humor, they like to laugh, they like to sing, they like to dance. They're very similar to us. In a sense, they're almost like our future selves because they represent, a similar race to humanity who has maximized their potential. I don't want to say maximized, actually, because that would be placing limitations on them, but maybe, reaching their full potential. Because, of course, the Pleiadians themselves are still in a state of development. I don't believe development ever ends, to be honest. But, there are still so many similarities that we have to them. And because of these similarities, we can actually relate to them a lot more than we could with some of the other races that are going to visit us sometime later on. They are our ancestors, for sure. Like I said, we do have a lot of their genetic codes as well. So, that's why we look alike, but you'll find that people from, Scandinavia, especially the Norse countries, resemble Pleiadian beings, well, at least one of the Pleiadian races a lot. Like someone like Anita, for example, who is, Icelandic. She looks very Pleiadian to me, and it's because those people have more of those kind of genes in them than most other people do on the planet. Basically, there are certain physical patterns that exist among certain civilizations and certain cultures within our own civilization that reflect them. So, of course, the Norse countries do resemble some of the Pleiadian races, but there isn't just one Pleiadian race. You've got to remember that the Pleiadians themselves, there's over 7 star systems, main star systems there. Some Pleiadian beings are blue-skinned, for example. Some look just like us, but the ones who look just like us will be the first ones to come down. Pleiadian beings also have a strong connection to the angelic realms. Okay, now they may not interpret the angelic forces the way we do. For example, we call, them Michael and Metatron and, Gabriel and Uriel, etc. But they still have their own connection to that kind of realm. And you'll find that a lot of Pleiadian starseeds are naturally drawn to the angelic realm as well, as a result of their connection to the Pleiadians. Some Pleiadian beings look angelic themselves, don't they? But I think when a human being also maximizes their potential, they embody angelic qualities naturally as well. And this is another thing we have in common with the Pleiadians. So the illusion of appearance is a funny thing, isn't it? Because even though after like the Pleiadians and the Yael and the hybrid children and other beings who resemble us physically a lot come down, there's going to be some that do not resemble us whatsoever, and these are going to feel more alien to us. But what I want to just say here is that there are no real aliens, okay? There are no real aliens in existence. Because again, that cosmic commonality is what we share with each and every being, regardless of whether they're reptilian, regardless of whether they're amphibious, regardless of whether they're, androgynous or whatever. We all share the same commonality. And this is something we need to hold really close to us as we, are in the process of meeting these beings. Some of them may look physically a bit scary to you, okay? But you've got to remember that you are also aliens to them, so maybe some of them will be just as nervous as you are about meeting you as well. So it's really important to take that into consideration as well, and to really put yourself in the shoes of these beings, who are brave enough to come down, travel all across these eons of time to come down and to welcome us into these galactic federations. Because they really do care about our well-being. They care about the immense amount of life that exists on this planet. They're doing this solely out of compassion. We really don't have anything that they need or want. They're just doing it out of love because they're doing the work of the divine, because these civilizations are actually in a state of God consciousness. They're working from that level, okay? Surface level differences, again, they're valid. Okay, so some of the beings that are going to come down in the next couple of decades are going to look very different to us for sure. They're valid, absolutely, but they're not fundamental. The only fundamental thing that exists is consciousness, because that's the same thing that exists within each and every being throughout the totality of creation. Universal love, ultimately, and universal peace can only be achieved when we go beyond these space-time veils of separation and appearance. Okay, we really need to go beyond surface level differences and to embrace one another as an extension of each other. The more we can do this, my friend, then the more we can truly unite as one consciousness, as one being, playing the role of an individual for a short time in this physical reality, cosmic drama, as Yogananda said. Play your role well, but do not get so caught up in it that you forget that you're just playing a role. And when the curtain of life falls, you'll realize when you take that mask off that you are just one with the divine. So this really does sum up week one. You're going to receive a PDF file and some meditations that Anita's recorded as well. I'm also going to give you a little bit of a quiz about some of the things that I've spoken about throughout this first week as well, just to test your knowledge just a bit, to see how you do, just to see how much of the information that you've absorbed as well. Okay? Thank you so much for taking part in this course. Much love.